The wind cuts through the forest, carrying with it the scent of dust, sweat, and something far older than memory. Perched high in a tree, a man clings to a branch, his muscles aching from hours of stillness. Below, the forest path waits, the very road horses take each afternoon to drink from the stream. He is not alone. Shadows move in the grass, silent shapes of his kin. Every man here knows the plan. Every heartbeat is timed to the moment when prey will appear. But today, the forest betrays them. The horses never come. They descend from their perches, tired and empty-handed, only to find another group already feasting on the kill they had dreamed of. The bitter taste of failure burns stronger than hunger. This is the Middle Pleistocene, a world where survival is not just about hunting animals, but outsmarting other humans. And among these competitors is a species whose story is as mysterious as it is vital. Homo Heidelbergensis, warriors, hunters, toolmakers, and perhaps the true architects of our rise. Today, we step into their world, a place of ice and fire, predators and prey, invention and extinction. The story of Homo Heidelbergensis begins in 1907 in the quiet village of Mauer near Heidelberg, Germany, where a quarry worker's pickaxe struck something that would change the way we understood human evolution. A massive, fossilized lower jaw, heavy and ancient, yet with a shape unlike any seen before. Its teeth were large, its structure robust, its chin entirely absent, yet it lacked the crude, forward-jutting face of Homo erectus. It was as if someone had taken the raw power of an ancient hunter and blended it with the emerging refinement of a modern human. German anthropologist Otto Schoetensack examined it closely, realizing it did not belong to any known species, and named it Homo Heidelbergensis after the nearby city. At an estimated 600,000 years old, the Mauer jaw became the first tangible evidence of a mysterious chapter in our lineage. 14 years later, and thousands of kilometers away, miners in what is now Zambia unearthed another treasure from deep within the rock. A skull with a massive brow ridge, a broad face, and a brain nearly the size of ours. It was called the Broken Hill Skull and classified as Homo rhodesiensis, a seemingly unrelated species. Over the next decades, more finds trickled in, from Spain's Cima de los Huesos, where dozens of nearly complete skeletons lay buried in a pit, to Ethiopia's Bodo skull, scarred with cut marks that hinted at ritual or defleshing, to Greek, French, and British sites that revealed fragments of faces, jaws, and tools. At first, scientists in the tradition of the splitter mindset treated each variation as a distinct branch of humanity, naming species after locations, skull shapes, or unique features. But as the 20th century wore on, a different picture began to emerge. These fossils spread across Africa and Europe, separated by oceans of time and space, were more alike than they were different. They shared the same combination of archaic strength and modern proportion, the same intermediate brain size, the same potential for innovation. Slowly, the puzzle pieces locked together, and Homo Heidelbergensis became recognized as the bridge between Homo erectus, the tireless wanderer, and the later humans who would inherit the Earth, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and Homo sapiens. These people lived between roughly 800,000 and 300,000 years ago, enduring one of the most volatile climates in Earth's history. Massive ice sheets surged southward across Europe, turning lush forests into frozen tundra. Then, in the next geological heartbeat, the ice would retreat, flooding the land with rivers and grasslands. To survive here required adaptability, and H. heidelbergensis had it. They spread widely, from the heart of Africa's savannas to the windswept edges of northern Europe, possibly even venturing into Asia, though evidence there remains debated. They were tall and muscular, with males averaging about 1.69 meters, 5 feet 7 inches, and females about 1.57 meters, 5 feet 2 inches, and their bones tell the story of a life that demanded strength. Thick cortical bone, heavy limb proportions, and powerful joints. Their brains averaged 1,260 cubic centimeters, rivaling or even exceeding some modern humans, hinting at a mind capable of planning complex hunts, making advanced tools, and perhaps even using language in some form. Their faces were broad but flatter than earlier humans, their brows thick and continuous, their jaws enormous and suited for a wide range of foods. They were toolmakers of the Acheulean tradition, shaping symmetrical hand axes with a precision that earlier humans rarely achieved, and there is evidence that some groups mastered the control of fire, a skill that would have meant the difference between freezing and surviving in Ice Age winters. Yet their classification remains a source of fierce debate. Some paleoanthropologists argue that African fossils assigned to H. Heidelbergensis should instead be called Homo bodoensis, representing our direct ancestors, while European fossils represent early Neanderthals. Others see Heidelbergensis as a wastebasket taxon, a convenient label for any Middle Pleistocene fossil that doesn't fit neatly elsewhere. This scientific uncertainty has earned the species the nickname the muddle in the middle, a reminder that human evolution is rarely a straight line, but more like a braided river, splitting and rejoining across time. But names aside, the legacy of H. Heidelbergensis is clear. They were not primitive brutes. They were innovators, survivors, and explorers. They hunted large game, possibly in coordinated groups, and left behind evidence of butchery and marrow extraction. In Cima de los Huesos, their bones appear to have been deliberately placed, suggesting some form of social or symbolic behavior. They stood at the crossroads of human history, their genetic echoes flowing into both the Neanderthals who would dominate Ice Age Europe and the modern humans who would eventually rise in Africa. To understand them is to understand ourselves, for in their bones we see the first clear blueprint of what it means to be human. Strength tempered by intelligence, adaptation forged by adversity, and a restless drive to explore every corner of the world. Life for Homo heidelbergensis was a constant negotiation between opportunity and danger, shaped by the landscapes they called home. Vast African savannas teeming with antelope and elephant herds, dense European forests echoing with the calls of deer and boar, and windswept Ice Age plains where mammoths roamed and saber-toothed cats stalked from the shadows. They were nomadic, moving with the seasons, following the migrations of prey and the rhythms of plant growth. Their temporary camps often set near rivers, lakes, or rock shelters that offered protection and access to resources. These people lived in small, tightly knit groups, perhaps 20 to 40 individuals, bound by cooperation, shared knowledge, and a deep reliance on one another. Survival demanded skill, strength, and ingenuity. The Acheulean hand axe, a tear-shaped stone tool perfected by their hands, was their multi-purpose weapon. A butcher's blade, a woodworking chisel, and even a symbolic marker of craftsmanship. For some examples show a symmetry and refinement far beyond mere utility. They likely hunted cooperatively, using coordinated drives to force large animals into traps, swamps, or ambush points. Evidence from sites like Boxgrove in England suggests they could bring down massive game such as horses, processing the carcasses with remarkable efficiency, stripping meat, cracking bones for marrow, and perhaps even drying or smoking food for later. Fire, though not universally mastered, was a game changer where it was used. It kept predators at bay, provided light for evening activity, and allowed the cooking of food, which made nutrients more accessible and reduced disease risk. Yet danger was never far away. Predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, and even larger carnivores like Panthera atrox competed for the same prey and would not hesitate to turn hunter into hunted. Injuries were common, from hunts gone wrong to territorial skirmishes with rival groups, and with no formal medicine, recovery depended on the care and cooperation of the group. In this harsh world, social bonds were as vital as muscle and stone. The sharing of food, the protection of children, the passing down of skills, these were the glue that held them together. Their voices, though we can only imagine the exact sounds, may have been capable of producing a wide range of calls and proto-words, enough to plan hunts, warn of danger, or teach the next generation how to knap flint or track an antelope across open grassland. Evenings may have been spent around firelight, telling stories through gesture and expression, sharpening tools for the next day, or repairing clothing made from animal hides. Their environment was unpredictable. the Ice Age climate swinging between warm interglacial periods and frigid glacial advances, forcing them to adapt repeatedly. When cold came, they may have sought shelter in caves, crafted simple windbreaks from branches and hides, and targeted fur-bearing prey. When warmth returned, they expanded their range, exploiting rich fishing grounds and plant foods. Every aspect of their lives was a balancing act between risk and reward, the line between feast and famine razor-thin. Yet this constant challenge forged resilience, and over hundreds of thousands of years, H. Heidelbergensis thrived in conditions that would push modern humans to their limits. They were not mere survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and opportunists whose skills and adaptability would lay the groundwork for all humans to come. In the flicker of their campfires, in the precision of their hand axes, in the unspoken coordination of a hunt, we can see the first glimmers of the human story taking shape. Long before cities rose and alphabets were carved, Homo Heidelbergensis may have taken the first tentative steps into the realm of culture, that uniquely human domain where survival meets meaning. Their world was harsh, but it was not empty of ideas. In the darkness of Spain's Cima de los Huesos, over 400,000 years ago, more than 24 skeletons lay deep within a shaft, their bones untouched by scavengers, placed far from the living world. Among them, one finely crafted hand axe of deep red quartzite, a stone rare in the area, rested like a silent offering. No one knows exactly why it was placed there, but its presence speaks of something more than accident. Perhaps an act of mourning, a ritual gesture, or a token of identity. This, some anthropologists argue, may be the earliest evidence of symbolic thought, the recognition that life and death are not merely biological events, but moments worthy of acknowledgement. Their tools themselves hint at culture, for many are shaped with a symmetry that exceeds pure utility, suggesting an aesthetic sense, a satisfaction in creating something well beyond what was strictly needed to survive. Their faces, reconstructed from fossil remains, were broad, strong, and expressive, capable of a wide range of emotions, from the fierce determination of the hunt to the tenderness of tending a wounded companion. We cannot hear their voices, but anatomical clues, the shape of their hyoid bone, the complexity of their breath control, the enlargement of brain regions linked to speech, suggest they may have possessed a proto-language, a structured system of sounds and gestures that allowed them to share ideas, plan complex hunts, and pass down knowledge. Imagine an evening in a sheltered hollow, firelight flickering against the stone, walls casting shadows of hunters, mothers, and children. Someone naps flint, the rhythmic tap-tap ringing in the cool night air. A younger member watches closely, not just the motion, but the intention, learning when to strike, when to turn the stone, when to discard a flawed flake. Words, or something like them, accompany the lesson, punctuated by gestures, smiles, or sharp sounds of warning. This transfer of skill is more than teaching. It is culture in motion, the preservation of knowledge across generations. Evidence of cut marks on some skulls, such as the Bodo fossil from Ethiopia, has stirred debate. Were these the remains of cannibalism born of hunger, or the careful defleshing of the dead in a ritual act? Either way, it shows an awareness of the human form as something significant, something to be treated deliberately. Over time, the seeds of culture planted by H. Heidelbergensis would blossom in their descendants. The Neanderthals with their burial practices and art, and modern humans with their vast symbolic worlds. But here, in the deep past, we can already glimpse the roots. The understanding that the world is not just a place to survive in, but a canvas for meaning. This early cultural awareness gave them an edge, for groups bound by shared symbols and practices are more cohesive, more willing to defend one another, more likely to survive the long winters and the sudden storms. It also allowed for the accumulation of ideas. Each generation did not have to rediscover how to make a perfect hand axe, how to track a wounded deer, or how to select the right kind of stone. They could inherit this knowledge, refine it, and pass it on. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, this accumulation changed them, shaping minds capable not only of reacting to the world, but of imagining it differently. The first sparks of what we might call humanity were flickering here, in the rituals of the dead, in the rhythm of toolmaking, in the unspoken grammar of cooperation. They were no longer simply creatures of instinct. They were becoming storytellers, teachers, and perhaps, in their own way, philosophers of the Pleistocene. Across hundreds of thousands of years, Homo Heidelbergensis became masters of movement, pushing beyond their African cradle into the shifting landscapes of Europe and Western Asia, riding the great waves of climate change like seasoned navigators of deep time. In warm interglacials, they spread across fertile valleys and lush forests, following herds into new hunting grounds. In glacial chills, they withdrew into refuges, enduring the cold with ingenuity and cooperation. Each migration left a genetic footprint, for they were not merely travelers, they were ancestors in motion. In Africa, some populations evolved over countless generations into anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, their brains and bodies subtly reshaping under the pressures of survival and social complexity. In Europe, others adapted to harsher climates and dwindling daylight, giving rise to the Neanderthals with their stocky builds, powerful frames, and deep resourcefulness. Still others in Asia may have contributed to the Denisovans, a lineage once unknown, but now revealed by the silent testimony of ancient DNA. This branching was not clean or simple. These peoples met, mingled, and sometimes merged, exchanging not only tools and skills, but also genes that would echo through millennia. The very shape of our faces, the resilience of our immune systems, and certain metabolic traits may carry whispers of Heidelbergensis inheritance. Fossil sites tell of their adaptability. In Boxgrove, England, they hunted horse on chalk cliffs. In Schöningen, Germany, they crafted perfectly balanced wooden spears capable of striking with deadly accuracy, weapons that would remain unmatched for thousands of years. These innovations were not accidents, but the result of a lineage with the cognitive depth to solve problems, to anticipate, to plan. As the Ice Age cycles intensified, these populations became ever more specialized, their paths diverging until Homo heidelbergensis as a single species vanished, but not into extinction, rather into transformation. They became us, and not us. Modern humans carrying their shadow in our blood, and Neanderthals whose last echoes would fade only 40,000 years ago. In this way, Heidelbergensis was less a lost ancestor than a great river branching into streams that would one day meet again. When modern humans left Africa around 60,000 years ago, they encountered their cousins, Neanderthals in Europe, Denisovans in Asia, and in those meetings there was both competition and connection, love and conflict, survival and merging. Today, if you carry European or Asian ancestry, a small but significant percentage of your DNA comes from these ancient kin, a reminder that our story is not linear but braided. And through it all, the adaptability, cooperation, and curiosity that H. Heidelbergensis honed in the deep past still run in us. We are walkers of wide horizons because they were. We are builders of tools because they were. We are storytellers, firekeepers, and explorers because they were. In every heartbeat, there is a rhythm they once knew. In every idea, a spark they once struck from stone. Their bones may lie silent under layers of earth and time, but their legacy walks in every human footstep across the planet today. Night falls over a world long vanished. The stars above are the same as ours, but the land beneath them is raw, untamed, and dangerous. Somewhere in a sheltered hollow, a small band of Homo heidelbergensis gathers around a fire, its orange glow flickering against the rough stone walls. The flames crackle, throwing dancing shadows across faces marked by both hardship and resilience. A hunter, still smeared with the blood of the day's kill, crouches with his companions, dividing meat with deliberate care, ensuring the children eat first. Beside them, an elder knaps flint with practiced hands, the sharp, ringing sound echoing into the cold night. Sparks leap from the fire and drift upward into the darkness, like tiny stars returning to the sky. A child watches them, eyes wide, seeing not just fire, but possibility. This moment, humble and fleeting, is more than survival. It is the birth of something enduring. Here, in the warmth of this circle, ideas pass silently from one mind to another. How to hunt, how to build, how to endure, how to care. No written word records it, yet it will be remembered in the muscle memory of countless descendants. Over millennia, the people in this firelight will vanish as a distinct name in the fossil record, but they will never truly disappear. Their blood will run in Neanderthals who paint the walls of caves, in Denisovans who cross high mountain passes, in Homo sapiens who sail across oceans and build cities under the same stars. They will live on in the curve of a cheekbone, in the dexterity of a hand, in the capacity of a mind to imagine what does not yet exist. Theirs is not a story of extinction, but of transformation, a metamorphosis written in the genome of our species. And as you sit here now, in a different time, with electric light instead of fire, their echoes remain. Every laugh, every plan, every work of art, every scientific discovery is another spark leaping upward from that ancient blaze. In the quiet between heartbeats, if you listen closely, you can almost hear them. The murmur of voices in a language we no longer know, the steady strike of flint on stone, the rustle of hides in the wind. They are telling you, as they told each other, that we are part of a chain unbroken, stretching back through the deep night of time, all the way to that first gathering around the fire. And somewhere, in the warmth of that memory, they are still here, watching, surviving, becoming, forever. Homo Heidelbergensis is not just a fossil in a museum, nor a name in a textbook. They are a chapter in us. Their strength built our bones, their curiosity shaped our minds, and their will to survive carved the path we now walk. They were the bridge between the ancient and the modern, between what we were and what we could become. And though their name may fade in scientific debates, their legacy burns on, just as their fires once did, through the endless night. Every heartbeat we carry, every dream we dare, every step we take into the unknown is a continuation of their journey. We are not merely descendants. We are living proof that their story never ended. It still moves. It still breathes. It is us. For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo Heidelbergensis roamed a world that was both beautiful and brutal. They had adapted to its rhythms, to the crack of ice in winter, to the green explosion of spring, to the long migrations that followed herds across endless plains. Their range stretched wider than almost any human species before them, from the sun-baked grasslands of Africa to the misty forests of Europe to the wind-swept valleys of Asia. They built their lives around rivers and caves, leaving behind hearths blackened by countless fires and stone tools shaped by hands that knew their craft as instinct. Yet the world was not still. The ice sheets, those great white walls at the edges of their world, began to advance once more. Forests retreated. Prey animals shifted their paths or vanished entirely. The old familiar routes became harder to follow, their hunting grounds less certain. Change crept in quietly, not in a single year, but in the slow, steady grind of centuries. And into this shifting landscape came something new. Their own descendants, subtly different, molded by time and circumstance. In Europe, these descendants became the Neanderthals, broad-shouldered and cold-adapted, masters of survival in the chill. In Africa, they would become Homo sapiens, with lighter builds, faster strides, and a knack for innovation that would carry them across oceans and into every corner of the globe. It was not a war that ended Homo Heidelbergensis. There was no apocalyptic battle. No single day when they ceased to exist. Instead, they changed the way rivers change, blending, splitting, flowing into something else. Over generations, they interbred with their children's children, their identities merging into the populations that came after. Their tools became more refined, their shelters more elaborate, their hunting strategies more efficient. What had been purely Homo Heidelbergensis slowly became something new until the old name no longer fit. But names are human inventions. Nature doesn't care for such labels. The people themselves never saw it as an ending. For them, life went on, hunting in the morning mist, laughing around the fire, teaching the young to shape stone, to track, to endure. Still, there must have been moments, subtle, unremarkable at the time, when the last pure group lived as they always had. Imagine one such morning, perhaps 300,000 years ago. The air is cold, your breath hanging in pale clouds. The camp is stirring. The smell of roasted meat lingers from the night before. The hunters check their spears, testing the balance of each one. The children chase each other among the trees, their shouts startling a flock of birds into the sky. An elder kneels by the river, filling a water skin, the sunlight glinting off the surface. Somewhere deep inside, though they cannot name it, there is a sense of change, that the world is not quite the same as the one their grandparents knew. When they break camp, they move in a loose line along the riverbank. Their feet press into the damp earth, leaving clear impressions in the mud. Broad toes, strong arches, deep heels. These are not just marks in the soil. They are signatures, as personal as a name. But the wind stirs. A drizzle begins to fall. Step by step, those footprints begin to soften, blur, and vanish. By evening, the river has risen, swallowing them entirely. In the physical world, they are gone. But in truth, they are never lost. Every step we take today, every journey we make, is built on that same instinct to move, to seek, to survive. Their legacy is not just in our bones or DNA, though both carry their silent imprint. It is in the shape of the tools we still design, in the way we work together to solve problems, in the firelight conversations that still bring us close. We still hunt, though now it is for ideas, for knowledge, for meaning. We still migrate, though now it is across cities, nations, even planets. The spirit of Homo Heidelbergensis, that blend of strength, intelligence, and adaptability, lives in every innovation and every leap into the unknown. They were not the end of something ancient, they were the beginning of us. And so, when we speak of them as extinct, we miss the truth. Extinction is final, but Homo Heidelbergensis was never erased. They simply walked forward until their reflection in the mirror was ours. If you could stand in that ancient river valley now, surrounded by the silence of deep time, you might feel it. The hum of something still alive, the quiet echo of voices in a language we can no longer understand. You might see the firelight in the distance, smell the roasting meat, hear the rhythmic strike of flint. And you might realize that you are not looking at strangers, but at family. Family who still walks beside you, unseen yet ever present, in every heartbeat, in every breath, in every step.